What I'd like to have right now is for all you loyal, awesome, devastatingly attractive retro game enthusiasts to hit that subscribe button while I show you what a real game review looks like. Now hit my music. Background viewing. Hey, check out the Aging Gamers coverage of this title. Link in the description below. Basics. WWF WrestleMania Challenge was released for the NES in 1990, published by LJN. But before you toss it into the digital dumpster fire on Reflex, hold up. It was actually developed by Rare. Yes, that Rare. This was years before Donkey Kong Country, sure, but clearly they had some chops, even in their pre-Masterpiece era. I mean, any developer who can make a wrestler move diagonally in 8-bit probably deserves at least a handshake. It's a wrestling game. Shocker, I know. For 1 or 2 players. You can tag in a friend for co-op or throw down against a rival in versus mode. For the time and platform, it offered a surprisingly robust lineup of match types. Standard singles, tag team bouts, 3-on-3 Survivor Series style elimination matches, and even a tournament mode. Not bad for 8-bit grappling. Overview. This game came with a surprisingly thorough manual. Game pack instructions. And yes, I still have my original copy from back in the day. I sold my NES and most of my games to Funko Land around 1992. Remember them? But somehow this manual, and one other, didn't make the trip. I was bummed out about missing out on an extra $1.50 back then, but today, totally worth it, because now we can flip through it together. It's got everything. A dramatic little intro, match prep, character selection, game modes, strategy tips, a performance chart, and even an ad to subscribe to WWF Magazine. This thing pulls no punches. The performance chart is especially helpful. Movesets vary quite a bit between wrestlers, with different effects based on whether you're tapping or holding the button, standing in front of or behind your opponent, whether they're down, or if you're going for a corner post move. It's way more dynamic than you'd expect from an NES wrestling game. There's also a mini bio for each wrestler, followed by full move pages dedicated to each one. It's not new info, just a more readable format, so you don't misread Boss Man Headbutt for Rick Rude Face Smash. Then come 6 trivia questions, which of course, I aced. FCC warnings, the classic "don't use projection TVs" message, and on the back, an ad for a game I just might need to review sometime. Manuals like this were a gold standard back then, and revisiting it honestly reminded me of how much they added to the whole experience. Thumbing through this manual again brought back a flood of memories, not just of the game, but of how I used to play it. So let's step into the ring and see how it held up then, and holds up now. My youthful experience. My interest in professional wrestling waxed and waned over the years. As a very young kid, I'd occasionally watch AWA on weekend morning. It was the local promotion where I lived, and I found it pretty captivating. I was into it just enough that my dad built me a wrestling ring out of plywood, wooden dowels, and twine. I held matches in it using my He-Man toys as stand-ins for the stars of the squared circle. But over time, other interests took over. Notably baseball and astronomy, and wrestling quietly faded into the background. Las Vegas, Nevada, Thomas and Mack Center, March 26, 1991. While visiting my family over spring break, we attended a WWF television taping, just days after WrestleMania 7. That night didn't just rekindle my fascination with wrestling, it super kicked it back into my life and pinned it for the 3 count. I went all in. Weekly syndicated shows, WWF magazine subscriptions, action figures, the works. And naturally, I had to own WWF WrestleMania Challenge for the NES. I found it fun. I already had a connection with many of the in-game wrestlers, even though some had moved on from the organization by that time I got the cartridge. The game was challenging. The move variety was impressive for the era, some even unique to each wrestler, and it featured surprisingly decent chiptune renditions of their entrance themes. To the 11-year-old me, it was everything I wanted in a wrestling game. The look. Fire up WWF WrestleMania Challenge, and after the standard legal mumbo-jumbo, you're greeted by a genuinely impressive splash screen. The Ultimate Warrior, WWF Championship belt around his waist, is front and center, flexing in full pixelated glory beneath the game's towering title. It's a strong first impression, and one that instantly tells you this isn't just another generic grappler. This is the World Wrestling Federation. The menu screens carry that same energy. Red, white, and blue star-spangled borders frame each option against a jet black background. It's loud, proud, and unmistakably on brand for early 90s wrestling. When you scroll through the roster to choose your wrestler, you get a tight close-up of each face. The pixel art is surprisingly good. Warrior, Macho, Hogan, all instantly recognizable. Unless you're too young to know what a hacksaw Jim Duggan even is. Once the bell rings, the action takes place from a roughly 3/4 overhead isometric style view. It's an unusual angle for NES wrestling games, but it works. The ring has depth, and there's a sense of being above the action, as if you're watching from a TV crane cam. Graphically, the wrestlers look solid. Blocky, sure, but their gear and colors make them stand out. Macho Man has his shades. Ooh, Macho King. We have to be time correct here. Big Boss Man has his blue uniform, and Brutus Beefcake has those tights. It's all here. The arena itself is no slouch. The ring apron cleverly incorporates your wrestler's power meter, which is a great bit of visual design, foregoing an obnoxious and space-hogging heads-up display. You've got ring stairs, animated crowds behind a steel barricade, and ring posts that mostly get the job done. Turnbuckles? Kind of a slightly scattershot affair. They're visible on the side posts, hidden at the bottom, and mysteriously absent up top. Like the art budget on this game ended abruptly. All in all, WrestleMania Challenge looks like a TV taping of WWF Superstars or WWF Wrestling Challenge. The ring, the crowd, the graphics, it nails that vibe. But instead of squashing Barry Horowitz or Steve Lombardi in the opener, every match is a main eventer clash. And yes, that includes the era-appropriate yourself. A blank slate wrestler who somehow walks in with all the charisma and crowd support of a top-tier babyface. He's over. Don't question it. The sound. The sound? Not too shabby. The title screen and menu selection areas have a nice ambient vibe. They set the mood better than you'd expect for an early wrestling title. Sound effects? Better than tolerable, totally acceptable, and occasionally flirt with actual believability. You even get 8-bit renditions of each wrestler's entrance music playing during matches. Now, I'll admit, I didn't recognize Andre's theme, assuming he even had one. This is where the comments section will either back me up or school me. Some of these tracks are a bit crude, sure, but several hold up surprisingly well, and most of them, at least the ones etched in my memory, are absolutely recognizable. Except for yourself. His theme sounds like whatever tune plays when you walk into a mall, with no cash and a broken wristwatch. Catchy, but deeply anonymous. Editor's note, nobody uses cash, wristwatches, or goes to the mall anymore. Gameplay. Pretty intuitive, especially if you took a moment to read the manual with me earlier. The D-pad moves your wrestler around the ring. Action buttons handle your attacks. Select lets you tag out, when applicable, and start pauses the action, with a hold indicator appearing at the top center when you do. The camera angle can make movement feel a bit awkward at first, but you'll get used to it quickly enough. Early on, you might struggle as you figure out reliable tactics against the CPU. But once you crack the code, the difficulty drops to almost zero, which is a little disappointing. But hey, that's true for many games. The downside, replay value suffers once you've mastered tournament mode and are able to take home the championship every time. Plus, the game does a number on your hands. 10 minutes in, and I'm feeling some serious discomfort and outright pain after longer sessions. I don't remember that being an issue when I was 11, so older gamers, consider this your friendly warning. That said, I like the gameplay overall. The dynamic movesets, with variations depending on timing, positioning, and wrestler-specific specialties, all thoroughly detailed in the manual, give it a well-rounded, authentic feel. My main complaints are that the winning strategy is a bit formulaic, and the game is surprisingly hard on the hands. Other. One funny quirk. Almost every wrestler can hit a leg drop. Except Hulk Hogan. Because, of course, Hogan's never done a leg drop in his life. Okay, fair enough. Also, it seems like anyone can body slam Andre the Giant. That legendary mystique? Yeah, it looks like it's gone out the window here. But here's the kicker. I could never manage to give Andre a rude awakening. Too tall? Too elusive? Maybe some moves you just can't connect on certain opponents. There may be more mysteries hidden in this game than I realized. If you uncover any, drop them in the comments. And the tournament mode? It's less a rigid bracket and more like a DMV line. Slow, steady, and you're just hoping to get to the front without losing your mind. You must defeat all characters, one after another. Think of it like climbing up the ladder in Mortal Kombat rather than facing the winner of the other semifinal bout. The one-player experience. Actually, everything I've discussed up to this point has been from the one-player experience. It's the two-player modes that need a little spotlight here. Unfortunately, these days it's rare for me to have a player 2 handy, so I'm leaning on childhood memories and a bit of speculation. With the replay value tied closely to your learning curve, the two-player modes definitely breathe new life into the game. Beating the CPU the same way every time gets old fast. But throw in a human opponent, or partner, into the mix, and things get a lot more unpredictable. It's not just more engaging gameplay, it's social fun. And that's a win in almost any game. Just make sure both players are at least somewhat evenly matched. If one person dominates every round, things get stale again. Only this time, your buddy won't want to keep playing with you. And suddenly, player 2 has left the ring. Who would enjoy this? Obviously, anyone who played this back in the day is going to feel the warm glow of nostalgia. That's true for nearly any title I cover. But who else might appreciate WWF WrestleMania Challenge? That's a little harder to pin down. Wrestling fans from the era will likely enjoy the lineup of superstars, the recognizable entrance themes, and the patriotic red, white, and blue ropes. Wrestling gameplay has come a long way since 1990. Even the jump to 16-bit brought major strides in how grappling and signature moves were handled. But for a 2-button NES controller, this one holds up surprisingly well. I can picture an old-school wrestling fan from the 90s dusting off the NES, calling their kid over, popping this game in, and sharing some pixelated sports entertainment. Maybe there's a Coke in the parents' hand, a Pepsi in the kids', and together they're beating the snot out of each other on a lazy Sunday afternoon. Just like the good old days. Legacy. Professional wrestling has always found a way to survive. Styles shift, audiences change, but the spectacle, the drama, the personalities, the pop of the crowd remains. It's still here decades later. Maybe a little different, maybe a little more polished, but still here. WWF WrestleMania Challenge, though, this one belongs in the past. It didn't revolutionize the genre or set any long-term standards. Its most notable contribution, dynamic wrestler-specific movesets, was impressive in its day, but quickly became commonplace. In the grand story of wrestling games, it's a side note. But for some of us, it's more than that. This cartridge, these sprites, those crude 8-bit renditions of entrance themes, they're tied to memories, to afternoons in front of a tube television, to magazines and action figures, to friends and brothers and cousins who don't sit cross-legged on the carpet with us anymore, and to wrestlers, larger than life, who now only exist in grainy promos and quiet tributes. Time moves forward, roster pages become obituaries, childhood heroes fade. We play on, remembering. And maybe that's what gives this game its last bit of relevance. Not in what it did for the genre, but in what it preserved for the fans who were there. None of us are immortal. Except, of course, the Hulkster. Overall, WWF WrestleMania Challenge delivers some solid moments. The look captures the era with impressive pixel art and smart user interface choices. The sound is a mixed success. Recognizable themes, decent effects, and some true 8-bit charm. Gameplay is intuitive and dynamic at first, though ultimately formulaic and a bit rough on the hands. This game is good in short bursts, but in the wide landscape of wrestling titles out there, spanning decades and multiple console generations, it's hard to give this one a glowing recommendation. If you played it in the past, you probably already know where your feelings lie. If you didn't, well, it's not an easy sell. Wrestling games are plentiful, and most new players are more likely to discover titles that are faster, deeper, or simply more fun by modern standards. That said, it is good for its time, and good for those of us who still carry a bit of nostalgia in our hearts. For the rest of the world, though, WrestleMania Challenge is a game they'll probably never even hear about, and they won't miss much by skipping it. That truth stings a little, but the gaming world marches on, as it should. We can embrace the past, and that's one of the reasons I do all these reviews. But we also have to live in the now. Appreciate what was, enjoy what is, and maybe, once in a while, fire this one back up, just for the memories. Next. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you next mission.